Okay, today I'd like to talk about the road, or more specifically, I'd like to talk about the drag. So this is the drag, obviously made out of steel in this A-frame sort of arrangement, and it is pulled behind a pickup truck to flatten the road out a little bit. It is actually pulled behind this pickup truck here with the 33-inch mutters on it, and we need that because occasionally the road unfortunately looks like this, and after it dries out, those ruts are still there, and we need to get rid of that. So put the drag behind the truck and take it out, and we can flatten the road down a little bit. Basically pull the high spots into the low spots, and because of the V shape of the drag, it has a tendency to pull the material into the ruts, which is what you want. Now this has traditionally worked pretty well for us out here, and I've been able to keep the road relatively passable during the time I've been dragging the road. Um, and you can see it does a pretty decent job. It grabs the material, pulls it into the ruts, and then when it dries out completely, it's not an utter disaster because this is all adobe here, so it turns into almost concrete when it dries out. So makes the road very rough and pretty difficult to deal with. Unfortunately, now, if we go up and actually take a look at the drag itself here, we can see that this thing is just not in the great shape it used to be in years ago. This has been in the neighborhood since before I was here, and it's something that drags along the road, so it obviously wears out. And the metal is now thin enough so that basically every time it's used, it breaks, and I have to weld it back together. So you can see it's got these points on the front of it that you can change to pull from. So in the wintertime, you can actually pull it point first and clear the snow from the road as well. And we can start to see here how thin and how damaged that drag is. You can see on this side here, there's some patches I've put in to try to hold it together. Just has a tendency to try to split in half. Here's a couple of plates I welded in, some rebar. This over here is the most recent repair where there's a piece of rebar I welded in across a clean break, not a clean break, but a full break, separated it completely right there. And then some more patches in the corner. And then on the front, this is the most substantial repair where there's a piece of angle iron, heavy angle iron, notched into the structure of the drag and welded in place to try to provide some structural integrity side to side. And here is where the metal is you can see the metal is very thin. And you can see the grater blade that's welded in underneath, and that's what's dragging on the road now. But originally, that thin metal there, that was the surface actually in contact with the road. And this is originally a piece of C-channel, so there's actually an entire part that's just ground away and gone. Now it's just a flat piece on that edge. So pretty worn out. It still works. I do have to repair it basically every time I use it. Welding rods are just part of the cost of operating the drag now. And we need a new drag. Hopefully, we can get the neighborhood together on that, but traditionally the Star Earthship community has not been one of its strong suits. So until then, I will continue to use this drag, weld it back together every time it breaks, and we'll try to keep that road as passable as possible.